my friends stand by me only if I'm right. I come out in triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and death to all the frauds, man. Not too many of me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting like I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute.
Peace and blessings. Welcome to the B2M Crew podcast. The five of us sharing a friendship and brotherhood for over 40 years, 100 years of marriage, 13 children, 12 of them boys, and us just sharing our experiences and hoping to offer something, not so much a how-to, but a how we did it. So it's me, J. Moo, my man Waki right next to me, Talik, John J.G. Yates, and the Wavo Black on the end. What we gonna chop it up about today, fellas?
What's up, fam? Hey, man, we got an email. So if you guys have any questions that you want to talk about or discuss on the show, email us at B2MCrew5@gmail.com. What we're gonna start with one of the emails that we received. Basically goes just like this verbatim. I'm a 35-year-old married black male with 2 sons. My 9-year-old, who was the youngest, is struggling in school. His teachers tell me that he's constantly disrupting class. He's barely passing. Even though we think our son is smart because he shows it in other ways, he just doesn't seem to get it in school. We took him off all the sports teams, took away his video games, but nothing seems to work. What can we do? So that was an email.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Beat
Okay.
him.
But
No.
Hey, that
was
sound like
one thing they said they didn't do.
Hey, that sound like The Color Purple. Remember The Color Purple? In that one scene, they're like, what should I do about the rebellious wife? What a beat her.
Yeah.
The only solution, right?
It's terrible. Terrible advice.
Yeah.
Terrible advice. Chill.
Chop it up, man. What's up?
Wow.
What's up, man?
I think one of the first things that needs to happen is you need to find out what's going on.
Okay.
Right? And so you got the information from the teacher that tells you your child has been disruptive and you know the child is struggling. But what are the details of that? Like, you know they're telling you that's a fact, which it could be a fact or it could not be so much the truth, right? So going to the teacher and say, can you give me the examples and tell me exactly what's going on? And from there, that's always the beginning of it, is finding out. I remember, shout out to Dean Rick Turner, Turner, the great Dean, from formerly at UVA. I remember one day, because Dr. Turner has 3 children that were very successful athletically and academically.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, how did you do it? Because I had 3 young boys, and he would always ask me when he saw me, the first thing that brother always asks you is, how's your children?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But I said, how did you do it? He said, you know what? I made sure they saw my black face in that school.
He gave me that same advice.
He did
He
it.
gave me that same advice.
Go ahead.
And as my sons, I showed up.
Right.
Showed up for lunches, just popped in there. They knew I might show up any old time.
Right.
And it was great too, because to talk about some of the things we talked about in another podcast, the other kids see you too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
And they
right.
start to develop that relationship with you as well. So go ahead.
Yeah.
I ain't mean to interrupt.
But no, I just started to say it starts with the investigation. And then once the teacher gives you more information, just like anything else, when we make a purchase, we get all the information first. And then we find out, because for the behavior stuff, that's the easier part to fix, because the behavior stuff is driven by the academic stuff.
Right.
And that's what most people sometimes miss. And I let everybody jump in. I want to tell this one story. I was a principal in Washington, D.C., at an alternative school. And I had read this book saying that most children that have behavior problems have reading difficulties, right? So the behavior I'm acting out because I don't want you to ask me to read.
Right.
Right? I'm going to perform. Anything for me not to read. And so I tested it. And I had this student that was like the biggest gangster in the building. And I had him in my office. I said, read that sign that posted behind me. He dropped his head. Right? I said, you know what? we're gonna help you be able to read that poster, right? And $20 for a haircut turned the school culture around because he started advocating for the school, and he ended up graduating on time because he needed help with his reading. So I would find out if there's an academic problem starting that's driving that behavior.
What grade level was that again?
He was an 11th grader.
Good God,
Yeah,
that's late too.
Yeah, right.
And we said the scenario had what, you said a 9-year-old?
Yes, sir.
And that's what? Probably
Elementary.
About
Fourth
fourth grade.
grade.
About
Third
fourth
grade.
grade. Yeah.
And when I was working in charter schools, though, and that was the most common problem. But on the other end of that is if they're say if they're too advanced, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they
sure.
Right.
the work is easy for them, so
Right.
they run out of time as far as having something to do, so they're gonna act out.
Right.
So that's part of that investigative process that you mentioned.
Yeah.
As to finding out is the work challenging enough for for my student,
Right.
or again if there's some sort of deficiency, whether like you said in reading, or whether they can't read or they're
You point out something powerful because there's not much difference between a student that's gifted and bored and a child that just doesn't have the skills
They're struggling
in terms of them tuning out
right
and being disengaged. And see, in that case, that's just something the school needs to address, right?
right
My child is gifted, and you want to hand him 2 worksheets and tell him to be quiet until everyone finishes.
right
Not gonna happen. Not even gonna happen in terms of behavioral expectations. So
right.
that's very real. And my question to like Joaquin and Talik, when your children were in like 4th grade, for example, or in late elementary school, how did you navigate any school challenges? Like what, in terms of this situation, it's similar.
Chill, you go first.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna step back a hair and then I'll address your question.
Got you.
But this story right here is me. This story is me.
You ain't gotta talk about your kids. Talk about
I
yourself,
can talk about me. Just for the simple fact, I was a talented kid, right? Had reading difficulties, right? And struggled in school, right? And the thing that I would say, man, to bring it full circle is one, like you say, address what's going on, right? And then engaging your kid, right? But the main thing is if you, and I understand that parents work, I'm a parent, all of us parents, right? And we understand, but if you can be able to get that time in, ask them, check them, and just keep not really micromanaging them, but letting them know that they're not gonna go 3-4 days without you asking them what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's almost equivalent to if you got somebody at your house working on something, right? Go peek in on them because they're gonna do some, maybe underhanded. But if you go in, I'm just checking, make sure you need any water, anything,
right?
Because they not sure if you're gonna pop back in on them.
Right.
So almost do that with your kids as well.
Right.
But that's me. That 9-year-old, that's me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that kid got skills in various areas. So now you got to tap into that to able to make them motivated and to excel in these ways like that. Maybe get them a tutor, and then once you start to show that you engaging, then now they understand, and then now they're gonna come around.
Yeah.
And just like my child, I didn't really have those type of issues because I was that parent, and I was thinking like, what type of things could have changed growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult. My mom worked 2 jobs, you know?
Right.
And she had to provide for us,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand, but those the type of things that I follow up. I say, I want to make sure I'm on it. I always told my son, you're going to be a good reader, a fluent reader, and you're going to be a good salesperson. Yeah. And I always promoted those 2 things,
right?
For various reasons.
That reading thing is heavy, because I think I can't say that I like to read when I was, when I was young. I used to hate to read,
right?
And it wasn't until early adulthood that I really kind of appreciated it. just coming into just knowledge, you know what I'm saying, and,
Right.
and the importance of it. So that's why I, like you said, I had to emphasize that, especially with our youngest, and we just had him reading from like, well, actually in the womb, his mom was reading to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Talk
and reading,
about
and
that.
reading in the womb, and so kind of started, and I wanted to have that as a part of helping him, wanting to create that love for reading. But then early on, 2-3 years old, I'm reading to him. You know what I mean? I would read the little short stories or whatever at bedtime, and at some point, then I had him read the same stories back to me when he could. You know what I'm saying? To develop that, and so I tried to create that love of reading, especially, you know what I mean, early on. And then I
Same
think
thing.
that probably would help a lot of parents to, to realize where education begins. It doesn't start in the school. It starts at home. You know what I mean?
Hey, Corey, speak.
go ahead.
No, speak to the type of intelligence you have to have in order to navigate everyday life without being able to read certain things. You know what I mean?
I don't.
Keep that mic close.
Yeah, I don't know how you listen. The data says that there's a playground to prison pipeline.
Okay.
Right? The data says that they build prisons based on 4th grade reading scores.
Wow.
And the numbers of students and national assessments that are progressing or not progressing. So reading is directly connected to prison rates. Literacy is, right? And so, to your point, why would we leave? We wouldn't leave anything else up to somebody else to do for our children that important.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But we leave it up to them. They'll get it when they get to school.
Right.
Right? We wouldn't leave anything else up to somebody else to do that's that important to their lives. And so for those of us parents that don't, aren't great readers or don't like it, so what? You got to do it.
Right.
Just like you say, well, I don't like my job, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm so glad brother was so open about his own experience and his own struggles, because that's what's going on is a lot of us parents didn't have positive education experience, and we don't really know how to be a parent except to say, you just better go get it and do what those people say.
Right.
But if you can think about the emotional struggle of someone that doesn't know how to read and what that feels like. I know what it feels like not to have money in my pocket. I know what it feels like not to be able to jump as high as somebody else or run as fast, but to read and you can't do it and other people can do it. And then, back in the day, y'all know we used to laugh at people in class that couldn't read.
Yeah.
Right? That's, or you would say to yourself, I know she didn't ask
why they call
Daryl to read again.
Yep.
Good
Right?
God, it's going to take us forever to get through this story.
Exactly.
Hey,
I'm glad they called on him because we're going to kill this time in class today.
Ain't gonna get to me.
But to be honest with you, that was me again, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I was able to develop being funny, right? You see what I'm saying? So it was a side effect, right?
Disrupting class.
I'm disrupted, right? Right? I'm not a very good reader, right? Because I wasn't practicing, right? Just anything, you got to practice to get better, right? I wasn't practicing. So at the same time, what was happening was they will make fun of me, right? But I was like, I wasn't gonna have that, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm a cool kid, right? So I wasn't having that. So I started joning. So
and haven't stopped since.
And so they know they don't want to go toe to toe joning with me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so then all of a sudden, now I'm not friend. And they stop talking about my, issues with me reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, those things I had to overcome, and I had to develop them. And now I'm part of something called a morning meetup, and we read a book.
Yeah.
That's part of our journey. So as an adult, hey, I'm right there at it. So yeah, definitely.
Man, I think what you said about the about do the investigation, that's super important because it's two parts to the investigation. One part is the school and the education and the teacher, and the other part is your child. I can remember from my years of being in education and being around kids, there was a situation where teacher keep talking about this kid is a problem, he disruptive, he this, he that, and all that stuff. And then once I did the investigation, I discovered ain't nothing wrong with the kid. He's just not fitting into the school's ideal mold of what they think every single student should look like.
Right.
They want to turn out little minions in the framework of, if you come to this school, you should be just like this. And when he didn't fit that mold, he was a problem. He wasn't really a problem. He just wasn't. He just wasn't turning into one of their little minions. You know what I mean? And then as soon as you say, nah, he fine, he okay. Well, guess what happened? Next thing you know, that kid is moving away. And now that we know he's not gonna be back, I ain't no more complaints about him.
Wow.
Because now he's not gonna be here. I thought he was a problem. If he was a problem, he gonna be a problem for the next 3, 4, 5 months.
Right.
But
It was a problem for them.
he was only a problem because he wasn't fitting into their little
Mold. Right.
into the mold. But then once they knew he was leaving, now all of a sudden it wasn't as disruptive anymore.
Wow.
So that's a component of the investigation. We had another kid, he was having some issues. I started spending some time with him and talking to him, and I discovered that, well, ain't nothing wrong with the kid, he don't like the teacher. So now that he don't like the teacher, he not gonna do the teacher's work. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I don't like you.
I'm not
The
doing
best
your
way
work.
I can get back at you is to not do your work.
Right.
So I'm not gonna do your work.
The student, black or other?
Black student, white teacher.
Okay.
And he literally told me, after I was talking to him, he's like, man, I've been in that dude's class for 2 years in a row. If they put me back in his class, I'm leaving the country. You know what I mean? That's how he felt about it. Now, he was like 5th, 6th grade, something like that. You know what I mean? He was like a 5th grader, so he had been in his class 4th and 5th grade. So he was like, don't put me back with that teacher. I go to the head of school, I'm like, hey, don't put him back with that teacher.
Yeah.
Don't put him back with that teacher.
What was his problem? Did you
didn't-
ever find out the problem that he had with the teacher?
I don't know. But we talked about this, but I don't know what, I thought the teacher's great, as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
but sometimes things just happen differently.
Right,
When we in school and when you had those cultural differences and my family moved in the same circle that the teachers' families move in, you know what I mean? Well, when they come to school, they say, oh, I saw your mom and dad at the play this weekend.
Yeah.
I saw your mom and dad at the park this weekend. Joaquin, sit down. You know what I mean? So you're real nice and friendly with the other students,
Right.
but now it's Joaquin, sit down. You know what I mean? And so you didn't. So now I'm gonna feel some type of way about you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when I was a 4th grader, I was like, man, she ain't feeling me. Now, I'm obviously acting out as well. But when I went to 5th grade, I had a teacher, shout out to Miss Chase. I love her dearly.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? She loved me dearly. You know what I mean? And she made it clear, Joaquin, when you will be successful. Joaquin, when you will not fail. She was on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so she talked to my parents and was like, hey, I think maybe we can get them, some help reading.
Yeah.
Once again, that's the issue.
Right.
And my parents got me a tutor. I started going to this tutor. She was a lady who was a teacher at the Oakland school.
Okay.
And she helped me with my reading. And man, it made a huge difference. But more importantly, man, I knew Miss Chase loved me.
Yeah.
Talking
Ain't
about,
no
wait,
problem.
That's
Man,
real. That's real.
Who do we love back in elementary school?
Wait a minute, man.
Kindergarten, first
Miss
grade.
Sonnenberg.
Miss Sonnenberg, baby.
Man, y'all talking about
I
a
think
crush,
we got in a
man.
fight about that.
Yeah.
bro.
Y'all talking about a crush,
We was
man.
talking- that's where that
That's
beef
the
started.
teacher
They was
I
talking about
love,
that.
brother, was Miss
But you had a
Sonnenberg.
crush on Miss Sonnenberg.
Yes, sir. Because she
We
looked
did.
like Jamie Summers from the Bionic Woman back
Jamie
then.
something. Man, don't nobody in
I know,
2023
any
know
young
Jamie
Hey, they
people
can
Summers.
know that,
Google it.
that's
But I
right.
think I was when I used to get in trouble, so she made me lay beside her at nap time.
Y'all terrible. Oh,
Man,
man.
Hey,
man,
look.
we
But no,
off
we-
track,
Hey,
man.
hey, check,
We
look,
talking
That
about-
was
I want to go
kindergarten
back to a
versus
couple
first
things.
grade.
First,
Yeah.
John said,
Yeah,
"What
first
happens
grade.
to an adult
Yeah.
that, in terms of what intelligence do you need in terms of if you don't have literacy skills. It's gonna cost you a lot. It's gonna cost you in terms of employment. It's gonna cost you in terms of your ability to be a good parent to your own children. It's gonna cost you in terms of your own adult self-esteem, and you're limiting your life.
In your own personal relationships.
Wow.
The other thing I want to point
whatever.
out with Talik, as a former English teacher, what I can say is, if I saw that he had difficulty reading, but he was the best Jonah in the class, I know he has linguistic and language skills probably
Right.
beyond some of the kids that can't out-Jonah him. So how do I grasp the strength of his oral language skills and wrap that back into him being a good reader, right?
Yeah.
That goes back to your point. What's the saying? Anybody that can't treat you right can't teach you right.
Sir. That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
For a long time, and this is the area, Charlottesville is the area, one of the few areas in the country where massive resistance happened, right? Where when the schools got desegregated, they said, you know what, instead of teaching these black children, we just gonna not go to, we closing all the schools down.
We 3 blocks from the school now.
We 3 blocks from it, right?
Wow.
We just gonna close it down, and we gonna educate our children in small churches and this because we're not going to school with them. Well, guess who went to school after massive resistance ended? Here we come in the early 70s.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you all realize we were the first of some of those that had
Started off
the
complete integration.
a
Started off.
fully integrated educational experience?
Wow.
Because
Right?
all our mamas and daddies went to segregated
Exactly. And so while we talk about Miss Sonnenberg and joke about that, I can remember a Mr. Will Gorecki
school. Wow.
that was telling us that slaves had big feet and swung in trees like monkeys. This is real talk.
Wow.
And I can tell you, if anyone wants to verify, go look at what books were used in public schools in the 70s, and you'll see Little Black Sambo. You'll see all of those books that are now banned. Curious George, different books.
I like Curious
so
George,
my
too.
entire, I used to love Curious
Yeah.
George. But then you find out that it's a metaphor for a slave being brought over here
Wow.
and handled by a master,
Yeah.
right? And so my point was, my whole K-12 experience was the rebellion you talked about, that we talked about. I'm not doing your work. Y'all showing fairness to these other children, and I don't know why, and you don't like me, and I don't like you. That's huge, right? And
Absolutely.
in education, people used to say, you don't have to like the kids that teach them. That's bullshit. What do you mean?
Right.
Wow.
How can I receive truth from you or information from you if you don't like me and you don't treat me fairly? So a lot of our kids are dealing with that, and we have huge culture problems in school because of it. And and I just seen that. So that's over at Greer. What was going on at Stone Robinson?
Yeah, same thing. As far as, like you said, our parents integrated the schools, and then what happened to the teachers at Burley, right? What happened to the Jefferson teachers? They didn't come over and teach in the public school systems, right? When we came in, not that I'm aware
A
of.
few of them did.
Yeah.
But they had all these restrictions on them because now they couldn't tap white kids on the hand.
Yeah, because they
You know
could
what
get
I mean?
spankings back
Yeah,
then. You're not
that's why
whipping my
all of a
child.
sudden
Yeah.
that ain't in the schools no more.
Right.
You know what
Wow.
I mean? Because
Wow.
we don't want you, and my mother-in-law talks about how, even for the teachers, she went to, I think it was Yancey. That's where the school, when they sent her to. And she was thinking, man, I'm gonna be teaching these little white kids, how are they gonna be? Shout out Miss Johnson, who taught for 40 years
Yeah,
around
shout
here.
out to Miss
Miss
J.
J.
And she was like, she realized, she got there and was like, man, these white kids are really struggling. They need more help than our kids who we done had our hands on them. You know what I mean? And so that was, just think about, you talk about the students that had this enlightening moment. Think about what kind of moment it might have been for the teachers.
Yeah.
To all of
Yeah.
a sudden have this moment like, whoa, these kids are not, you know what I mean? No matter how much you talk about, not having a slave mind or white supremacy infecting all of our minds, we raised in America.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a
It
fact.
impacts us. So like, you was coming into this situation thinking these white kids was gonna be ahead of your black kids.
Right.
And not even realizing it was just the opposite. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? When
got
she
shot.
actually got in the room with them and had to teach them. You know what I mean? And so that's just a real thing, man.
It is.
That's even speaks to the myth of white supremacy anyway. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So because why would you segregate or separate if you're so much more superior intellectually? Why don't you prove it and let the students learn together and prove that? So it just showed the myth of white supremacy, where
Nonsense.
to think that you greater,
Foolishness.
greater than someone intellectually or whatever else. Because if that was the case, why not just let them learn together and prove your superiority? So that's why
that's a
they,
fact.
and to realize that we had to start 400 years behind with regards to education, and then to probably show and bring out some brilliance. You know what I mean? Having been oppressed and suppressed for that number of years, and not being able to, being against the law to read, you know what I mean, for hundreds of years, and then we having to catch up, and then to still show intellectual prowess and whatnot, man, please. White supremacy is straight myth.
This whole discussion going on right
But that's not
now
our topic.
in the country about racism, this whole critical race theory,
Oh my gosh.
right? And this whole we don't want CRT. So in Florida, they banned, you can't take the governor banned a AP African American history course from being taught in Florida,
Right.
right? Because he
And
said
their
they're
state,
teaching
and their
racism.
state legislation went
And
was
all of
behind
them,
it.
right? And nationwide, this is the whole movement right now. This whole people talking about white replacement is y'all basically they saying y'all teaching too much truth about the history of America, right? But the whole critical race theory, they're conflating the word, right? Critical race theory is used in research.
Right.
It's a theory,
Right.
right? It's by Derek Bell from Faces. I mean, I think his book is called, was it Face at the Bottom of the Well or something like that? But Derek Bell, basically, the whole critical race theory, for those people who aren't aware of it, is race is at the intersection of every institution in America and permeates it and impacts it, right?
Right.
And so what grew out of that, though, in schools was not teaching that. It was, let's then be, sister named Dr. Geneva Gay came up with culturally responsive teaching. We're not teaching critical race, but we need education to be culturally responsive. Whether you're from Europe, whether you're from South America, whether you're from Africa, the education should be inviting to you.
Right.
It should be inclusive of all those cultures. So when you have schools where that's not happening, you got culture problems,
Right.
right? Because the kids are disengaged. I don't see myself,
Yeah.
right? I don't see myself. So what you're telling me is not even interesting to me. So the movement is we need more authors that are black and brown, younger, all of that stuff. But the traditional white power structure is basically saying, no, don't tell our kids that truth. We don't even want our own
Right.
children to know the truth about us. And so that's what we got going on in schools. And how that relates to the scenario is this. Any education problem that your child is having can be fixed with the things that these brothers pointed out. Time with your child,
Okay.
and finding out what's going on and being in it with them.
Sure.
If they can't read, then you sit down there with them every day and do the phonics with them. If they can't do math, then you sit down there with them every day and do what you can do, or bring a tutor in, right?
Seen any of those clips?
Say it again.
I've seen any of those clips where he's struggling when the child is
And the
struggling.
parents be mad, right?
Oh my God.
Oh my God, he can't get 2 plus 2. What
And
do
you
you
try to be
have when you
patient.
get 2 apples plus 3 apples? 7.
Right.
No.
And
it's-
the mother tried to dad. Okay, baby, you gotta calm down a little bit.
Calm down. Yeah.
And then, okay, the answer is 5. He tells him the answer. And then he goes to him and he say 12. He's like, this one.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, and I've had those
No,
moments too back,
yeah.
back in the day. So.
Yeah.
So the education stuff can be fixed if you investigate, and then it's important for you to come up with a plan to fix it, right? The culture problems in schools, that's a whole nother ballgame to teach a 4th grader to deal with an adult that doesn't like them. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
That's a fight that you got to take on. at
Or
another-
the perception that the adult doesn't
Right.
like
the
them.
perception, exactly,
Correct.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And to what you spoke of you were a quality teacher, you know what I mean, and probably different from most of them. Whereas you saw, as to what you said you would have done with Talik's example, and if he was a student of yours, and how you would have treated that, you know, you're just an exception to, you know what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
most teachers. You won't find too many that has that quality of teaching.
It's literally
care.
because you care about the.
Right.
Like,
Right.
And
People don't
Joni
care
doesn't
about how
scare
much
me.
you know until
Until
they know how much you care, right?
Let me tell you what
Sure.
happened when
Sure.
I was teaching at Albemarle High School. This is a classic scenario when Waukee said one kid was doing one thing, And then when it was him, it's all go sit down, Joaquin.
Yeah.
It was a student at Albemarle. I was teaching 11th grade. That was back in the time when the bomb just started being used regularly.
Okay.
That's the bomb.
90s.
90s, right?
Meaning something good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So look, when you are a black teacher at a majority white school, even the black children you don't teach gather around your room. It's like a meeting place. Me and
Safe place.
Brother Grady, Mr. Grady was on the same hall.
Oh,
Shout
yeah.
out to one of the best algebra teachers I've ever met.
I hired him
Yeah.
to tutor my son.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
absolutely.
But kid come in the room, oh, that was the bomb. It's bomb. He was bombing it up, right?
Yeah.
The white lady, Omar! Omar, did you hear that? Omar! He just said something about listen, he's using slang. I talked to him. He been a little loud. I got him. White kid come in her room. This sucks. It freaking sucks.
Wow.
Now I'm grossly offended now. I mean, the
Right,
bomb was
right.
fine with me. But that's a cultural difference. You can't come in a black house and be like, it sucks.
Oh no.
They could regularly use that language at home, at school, and it was accepted,
You
right?
don't like it,
So
you
that's
go.
when,
Yeah.
so now he
Mhm.
don't like her. But
Yeah.
he's in her class. You understand?
Yeah.
She thinks he's a threat. He's talking about bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, real talk.
Yeah.
And I understand, I saw a message in the chat this week, John, about some cultural things going on at Albemarle.
Right.
Oh.
It's
Oh,
the
that's
article
crazy.
about the bathroom. Gang. They
He
call it
shared
gang
with-
bathrooms.
Oh yeah, he shared it with us.
Oh,
What
right,
they call
yes,
it?
that one.
Gang bathroom.
Yeah, gang bathrooms. And so I guess their solution, instead of walking out in the hallways between classes, is to I don't know if they're gonna do some new construction or whatever, rearrange the bathrooms, right? To prevent that.
Yeah, I think they mentioned constructing like several of the
Bring
like
75 porta potties in. Nah.
Yeah, I have
What
no
did
idea how.
what
Yeah,
did
they
the
wanna-
single gender bathrooms have to do with fighting in the? I don't understand.
Right.
That's what I believe it's
Correct.
really more about as opposed to that. And he
Think
just
it's about
using that.
gender?
Yes, I believe so. As far as covering a couple different things. However, I don't believe in the approach
So
to be.
we're gonna renovate the building instead of your mind and your spirit and your attitude.
Wow.
Come on.
We can't,
Wow.
Right?
we can't fix
But-
the kids. It's the lazy. It's the
And you
lazy
can't
way.
legislate love, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you should teach and work with kids or old people if you really don't love it. You shouldn't do it. And if you do it, it's a labor of love anyway, right?
Right,
You're not doing
right.
it for the money, but you can't be in. And going back to y'all talking about your first teachers, right? Shout out to Miss Dooley. Love me some Miss Dooley, right?
Dooley.
Miss Dooley.
Okay. What grade?
You know what? Hey, she was a kindergarten teacher. Then she moved to first and second.
Oh, you had her 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
And love her dearly. And I'm sorry, I don't know her married name, but she Miss Dooley to me. And and thankful that she literally used to tell me and my buddies, the twins, I love you. I love you. You know, 3rd grade, I had a black male teacher. He was excellent. 4th grade, I had my first horrible teacher, you know. And so I'm thankful I didn't have her in kindergarten. It was reverse. You feel me? And so, but going back to the scenario, one of the questions I have, this is a 35-year-old married man. So, and this is his youngest child, right? So I'm curious how many kids he got in the birth order, you know?
Right.
If that's his youngest, right? And so I know, well, first and foremost, we got to find out if this teacher really feeling him or not, right? That's the first one. That's the foundation, being present, being there, and seeing if the teacher really cares about him. And then we move forward from. So, my first thought was birth order, right? So, but that first one, we all in, reading the books, doing everything
It was
perfectly, right?
gung-ho.
Yeah.
Right.
After that, he like,
Yeah. So if this baby, he like, man. So the next thing is when he said take away the sports, right? To me, solving the problem with a child that can't sit still is not telling him to sit still even more.
Right.
Right. So I'm all for punishment, etc., or consequences, I should say. But I sincerely believe in mind, body, and spirit. The kid got to stay active. He got to stay. Now, in certain occasions, if he got a sincere passion about a sport, and just the threat of removing that, straighten him up, we'll use it.
Right. There you go.
But now, if he's not playing the sport or doing this activity, are you putting a tutor with him for 2 hours during the
Correct.
time? How are you replacing that time?
Balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Or he's just sitting in his room. Those are the questions that I would have. You know,
And you know how you can tell if it's a real behavior problem or not?
Hmm.
Does the coach come tell you he disrupting practice every day?
right? Exactly.
Is he disrupting Sunday school class? Are there other areas that's showing up? You
Right.
know, that's critical. And I want to take this moment to thank you all for tuning in, watching with the B2M Crew podcast. We're broadcasting here from the Code Building. I want to give a shout out to Code-Based Co-working located downtown in the Code Building. It's an amenity-rich shared work environment specifically designed to serve business professionals and entrepreneurs. Shout out to them for sponsoring this episode. And we do remind you to tune in to catch us on our YouTube channel and also on Twitter and Instagram at B2M Crew. And as we continue this journey talking about education here, but that's a very critical piece because like you said, I think Joaquin said in the one of our conversations, he said the punishment has to fit the crime, right?
Yeah.
The discipline has a fit. So again, if you have some learning issues and I take away sports and that's balancing your life, which is a good part of life, it's an unjust punishment.
Man, to add to that, man, the theory is when you have a young person, I've talked about this probably before, young people, they dream, their imagination is big. So when you ask them what they want to do, they always say, they'll have numerous things they want to do. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a fireman.
Right.
Because they're operating out of their imagination and their vision. Well, by the time they get older, the world has beat it out of them. And then you ask them what they want to do at 15 and like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so really, if you have a 9-year-old, you really should talk to them more and find out what they're dreaming about. Like get them refocused on their dream and make sure we are being, as parents, facilitators of bringing about dreams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And help bringing their dream to fruition. We got to make sure as parents, we continue to feed their dreams. You know what I mean? So, and as parents too, we got to make sure that we kind of get up on the times. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If a kid now say to you, I want to be a YouTuber. Now, to somebody 35, that may sound crazy. Or 50, that might sound, a YouTuber, they don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? So as parents, we got to be up on, how times are changing and different occupations that our kids can get into. You know what I mean? My particular youngest son is a professional Call of Duty player. So, you know what I mean? If I was on some old stuff,
right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been having
Well, you
that.
better get down and go to the factory and get a job.
Yeah, right.
Go to the factory.
Go to the hospital.
To the plant. It was the plant by the time we came. The job down at the plant.
Go get your job at the hospital.
or
you know what I mean?
right,
And ain't
right.
nothing wrong with that.
Realistically.
You know what I mean? It's great honor in doing that work. You know what I mean? But really, when the kids stop wanting to do work, when the kids stop, it happens when they stop dreaming, when they're having issues with teachers, when they're having issues with their own academic challenges in terms of reading or whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's when it starts to go south.
Yeah.
And we got to make sure we close to them. So as soon as they start to stray, I'm glad that brother sent that email because clearly he got his hand on it.
Yeah.
He's not sending us that email and that 11th grader showing up in your class that can't read.
Right. That's
you know
a
what
fact.
I mean?
That's a fact.
He got a 9-year-old. You know what I
Got
mean?
time to correct something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it clearly this parent has their hand on their child.
Yeah.
And that allows them to fix this at 9 so he don't show up in the 11th grade and now you got to fix it. You know
So,
what I
Nick
mean?
and John, I want to ask y'all a question. So,
Sure, go ahead.
what did you do in your child's education to incentivize them or reward them? Look, 'cause we've been talking about the punishment or the negative
Oh,
side.
you mean like, do you believe in money
Yeah,
for
do you
grades
believe
and
like
stuff
some
like
people?
that?
Yeah, some people believe in, hey, if you get honor roll, you get the new Jordans.
Or
Or some people just straight up $5 or
$10 for A's.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
How
Jim?
about this? I'm gonna talk about saving me some money. Hey, that preschool was $225 a week, right? And so, son, you gonna learn how to read, right? And you going to school, right?
Right.
And so my boys graduated at 17, right? So they younger. So that's one thing. And so now they in school. So anyway, a lot of other kids are older than them.
Yeah.
But no, I never did incentivize provide financial incentives for them. You
Okay.
know? Every once in a blue moon I threw something like that out there, but not on a regular basis.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's certain things that I try to set those expectations of what I expect for you to do. You know, every day from when you wake up from your daily habits of washing your face and brushing your teeth to how you're supposed to conduct yourself in school.
Right.
You know, and that was just at the expectation. So I didn't really, you know, it wasn't you get $5 for A, $10 for blah blah. It wasn't anything of that. It was just what I expect you to do.
Mhm.
This is the expectations that we had.
Yeah, I was big in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely I was pushing my son, but not like I was First of all, I motivate the way I wanted to be motivated.
Okay.
Money.
I was about to say, so
Right.
it was the money piece.
So that
So
was
you mean all we had to do is give you some money,
yeah.
and you'd have got some A's.
Oh, I'd have got a whole lot, right? Straight up, right?
Hook or crook.
Yeah. So I'm parenting out of what motivated me, right? So, you know, getting honor roll was a big deal, right? Growing up. But I would tell my son, I would give him extra if he gets straight A's, you know? And he got straight A's for several years.
What was he getting? I'm just out of curiosity. What was he?
No,
what
he was
getting for
always
honor
You
getting
know
roll?
what I mean? How much money?
money.
You mean
Yeah, how much? Yeah, how much
Yeah.
money was he racking? You know.
I don't know.
Each
you
grading
know,
period.
I'm real loose
100,
with money, so
150.
yeah.
Let me
I don't
hold
know.
something.
Yeah, I mean, for all straight A's, probably $50, $100, something
Oh, okay.
like that.
Okay, I was just curious.
But at
That's
the
a lot
same,
of money for a little kid.
yeah.
though.
So,
right.
but at the same time, I knew the importance of if I get him started early, to being able to develop and motivate him to get these grades, then he'll do it continuously. Now it's a style, right? But now I know what you about to ask me, but I'm gonna wait on it. But eventually, once he started doing it, I stopped rewarding him, you know. But it was like in middle school or something. But to fast forward, it paid off, you know. To me personally, as a parent, you know, I paid for private school when he got in the 9th grade, right? And then he graduated from college, 4-year college, debt free. We don't own nobody.
Yeah.
So you think that $50, $100, $20 wasn't worth it? We don't have $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 in student loans.
Even somebody,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
somebody,
Blessing.
even somebody that would disagree with your philosophy,
Can't argue
they have
with
a
the
hard
numbers.
time with them disagreeing with them student loan debt they got.
Can't argue with the numbers.
I'm a witness.
Numbers don't
man.
lie.
I'm
You know?
pulling for Biden and the next president to come through, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like goodness. But my question was, you really answered it, because my question was, how did you teach him that money isn't important? There was a point where you were able to say this wasn't about the money.
The
You said
accomplishment was
you
enough.
graduated to that, and that's I think
I
that's
knew where
the-
he was going.
I think that's
seen
the
it.
key. But
Yeah.
that is the key to that, because we incentivize in different ways. My thing was, I can't say, hey, you get this when you get a report card, but if you're doing what you're supposed to do as a kid, it's not anything you can't get anyway. At any time, right? If you're
Right.
doing what you're supposed to do. And I thought that that's really interesting that we talk about that. So when we looked at the scenario was one thing, and to me the bottom line with that is, y'all said something really, Joaquin, you said something huge. Man, I've been in education for almost 30 years.
Wow.
I've been a teacher. I've been an assistant principal.
Principal.
I've been a principal. I've been working in the central office, right? One quote that I always use when I'm doing a training is from William Butler Yeats. He don't spell it like y'all. He
I was
probably
saying,
one of
is that
y'all
cousin?
relatives.
Nah.
If you trace,
What do you spell it? Yeats.
yeah, it's Yeats,
Y-E-A-T-S.
but y'all, that's how y'all probably spelled it before y'all got over. We got on this side of the
But
water.
they got,
So
but they
you
got
probably
cool.
could trace back. I think y'all look.
but y'all got cute. But
Y'all
but
might
they got
look like,
cute
let
on
me
us.
pull up that old Englishman.
I wanted to try to change it
But
up
look,
and
he said
transpose and bring
something-
that E towards the end.
Yeah, he said something profound.
Okay.
Education is not filling the pail, is lighting the fire,
Wow.
right?
Inspiring.
Feeling the parallels. We got all these standards. The students got to master the standards. They got to do this.
That's the Peabody.
It's
model.
about, that's where I first saw it. That's
Mhm.
exactly right. When
Peabody
Amir went to Peabody, right?
Yep.
That's the quote. Because you know why it's so powerful? Because I read this book by Cornel West, and he was talking about Dr. Cornel West. He said he struggled in his early years, and they wanted to put him in special education classes, right? Because he couldn't read. And he was different and all of that stuff, right? There was one teacher that sold into him, like Miss Chase, like Miss Dooley. For me, I have to say it was a teacher like Miss Robinson at Jack Jewett or Mr. Bean Wilson
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
that sat me down and said, he said, just like this, you're going to get this lesson.
Yeah.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
You know, you're in the
Big
sixth grade, you
man.
got a 6'2", 235 English teacher.
Yeah.
He let you know. So I was lucky to have 2 black English teachers in a row in middle school that was like, you got some talent, you can do something, right? But the inspiration, Cornel West said that one teacher sold into him and inspired him. Once you turn that light on, the teacher can get out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you find out what motivates them and what they like, they can get out of the way. They're going to take charge of their own learning. And so the teachers spend all the time saying, you're going to get this information. Figure out how to unlock the gifts.
Absolutely.
And that's where it is. And that's what we not, and you got to care about people to do that. You got to love them. You got to love their future in order to want to see the best of them come out. And that's not happening enough. And then we get kids that shut down. And then you get parents that say, you're going to go do what them people say. That's it. You just wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And you want to say in your 4th grade self, but they didn't turn the light on. They not turning the light on. I remember I was in the 4th grade. I got older brothers. I love reading when I learned how to read because I used to read all of their books, textbooks, in addition to Ebony and Jet that we had at home, right?
For different reasons.
I used to read, page 30, what page is it, 38, something like that.
Beauty of the
Jet
week.
Beauty of the Week.
Beauty of the week, yes, sir.
I used to read that books we get in the 4th grade, and they putting you in classes. You know, you get a certain book based on how you reading, right?
Oh, yeah.
They put me in this certain book. I was like, I'm not supposed to be in this group.
You got me in the green. I'm supposed to be in the orange.
You got me in honeycomb, or whatever they used to call it. Hey, look, bro. Teacher's like, no, you're not. I said, I read these stories last year. No, you didn't. You in this group. Shut me totally down.
Wow.
That started my bullying years, right? Now listen, the book she took me away from, my brothers had that book. I read the book about 3 times at home, bro.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So is that how much of that's happening, man?
Bro, let me I gotta tell this story. It's long, I'm gonna try to shorten it
Go
up.
ahead, bro. Yeah.
But when my oldest son Darius was in 2nd grade, you know how they always give you the test to see, you know, if you should be in the gifted classes and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know. That's when they gave some of the tests. But when he was in the 4th grade, they got a black principal at the school. And I guess she went and was looking at the numbers and trying to realize why there were no kids of color in the gifted program. Well, when she went back and looked, she discovered that our son in the 2nd grade had tested to be put in there. All right.
Wow.
Well, she called us up and was like, hey, we think he should be in this program and all this stuff. We're like, okay, cool, great. You know, put him in there. Well, the lady that ran the program was pushing back. But eventually they put him in there, right?
Why?
Fast-
On what basis? I'm just curious.
Don't know. All right.
Wow.
All right. But 2 years later, at 4th grade, we find out now it's time to go to 6th grade. This is how we ended up at Peabody. Now it's time to go to 6th grade. So when we get to 6th grade, I go to his counselor and all that stuff over at Burley, and I'm like, hey, he's in the wrong math class. He needs to be, you know, in this math class. They're like, no, this is right. You know, this is where he should be.
What do you know, parent?
Yeah, what do you know? And they think I'm just a parent that's just like saying it just because.
Right.
I'm like, well, he was in the gifted program. And the lady was like, no, he wasn't in the gifted program. I said, yeah, he was in the gifted program for 2 years, 4th and 5th grade. And she was like, no. And then the counselor went and checked. She was like, well, no, he has a different color folder. I'm like, huh? And she was like, his folder is the same. He he doesn't have a green folder. I think it was green. I don't know the colors. But I think it was green. She was like, he doesn't have a green folder like the gifted kids. Because when you come from elementary school, the folders are color-coded, so we know where to put them.
Wow.
Turns out the lady that didn't want him in the gifted program had changed the color of his folder.
What?
So she didn't send the colored folder he was supposed to get. But I remember before that, before discovering all of that, when I sat down with the principal, and he was like, I was like, he's in the wrong math class. I said, he was like, well, it's not that much difference now. I said, yeah. I said, but this is math. I said, it's a 6th grade problem now, and the gap is like this. I said, but by the time they get to 12th grade, the gap gonna be like this. And he literally looked at me, and this was a brother. He looked at me and said, well, that would be good enough. And as soon as he said that,
that would be good enough.
Yeah, as soon as he said that, I was like, we out of here. I was like, let me get his folder. It was like September. I got his folder and I showed up at Peabody and put him in Peabody just like that.
Yeah.
It's September. It was like October maybe.
Right.
Like I just like disrupted his world, bro. And here's the thing. I disrupt his world like that. And man, when he go to Peabody, man, I'm sorry about this, Darius, but I got to tell it. Amir know. He was there. Dr. Nazir knows because he was there. Cool, you know. Darius was in the bathroom crying every day.
Yeah.
For the first 2 weeks, he did not want to be there. Like so much that like we was having serious conversations in our family about, yo, like we need to be well aware of his mental health because we have disrupted his world, taking him from his friends, and we done stuck him in this private school. You know what I mean? And so, and I remember everybody was like, hey, just go ahead, let him, just send him back to Burley. Just send him back to Burley. And I'm like, nah, he going here. Just send him back to Burley. Nah, he going here. And I remember my father-in-law came to me and he told me a story. And he told me a story about when he was in World War II. And he said he was in World War II and they were out there with the drill sergeant and they were marching. And he was like, and then all of a sudden, the drill sergeant was like, hold it, hold it, hold it. He said, everybody stop. Don't take another step. Don't take another step. He said, William Johnson, you are the only soldier that's out of step. But you're the only soldier that's got it right. If I could get everybody to march like you, we'll have us a good army. And that story told me, everybody saying take him out. No, you doing it right. Leave him there. And my father-in-law was like, I hate to see the boy crying like that. You know what I mean?
Man.
And he was like, you doing the right thing. Leave him there. So to wrap it all up, here's the day I knew we made a good decision. My son goes on, does well, go to college. And you know how he played college basketball up in Vermont. And on senior day, when the parents show up and we show up to, walk our kid out out the back and all that stuff. When my son came running out of the tunnel for the warm-up line, he had on a Peabody t-shirt.
Wow.
Wow.
He had on a Peabody t-shirt. Man, dog, every time I tell that story, man, it just make me think.
They had to hand you some tissue.
Yeah.
Look, everybody had beat you up.
But more importantly, it let me know that he knew it was the right thing.
Right.
Dad did the right thing for me. Mom and dad did the right thing for me. You know what I mean? When I was going through a tough time. And so I say that and I tell that story because I want parents to know that sometimes you can be making some tough decisions for your children's education.
And it hurt.
And it's gonna be painful and it's gonna hurt. And you're gonna have to watch them endure that pain, whether it be the pain of a tutor, whether it be the pain of a new teacher, a pain of losing friends, the pain of a new school, whatever it may be. But you have to be strong in your convictions and believing that this is the right thing for them and this is the right thing for their education. And I'm gonna keep them there. And we're gonna hope for the best, and we're gonna get them to dream again and get them refocused.
I'm gonna call that one not a story. That's a testimony right there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's a testimony.
I have to say this, right?
Yeah.
To wrap up about the young man, right? I want to tell the parents that he's going to be extremely fantastic. All right. Just rally around him. Just pay attention. Ask questions.
Be involved. That's right. Stay
Like
involved.
I say, that kid was me. You know, I failed the second grade, right? And from that point on, it was difficult in life for me, right? As far as in school wise, yeah, exactly. In school wise, right? And they wanted to hold me back, right? And they did. And you know, I didn't really know what was going on. I gave it my best. I gave it all I got. And what happened from the second grade when I had to repeat it, right? I said, well, ain't no way in the world I'm gonna give it the best I got because I already done it the first time. So I cheated from the second time I went to second grade all the way until I went through college, right? Literally, because I was like,
I'm not taking no chances.
I'm not taking no chances, right? I need to get out of here, right? I need to get out of here, right? And I mean, but this is my mindset, right? Now at the same time, right? I'm telling him he gonna be all right because I'm an entrepreneur. At one point, I had 12 people working for my company, and I'm pretty sure they were well more educated than I was, you know. But at the same time, don't get caught up in that.
Yeah, he gonna be all right for sure.
He gonna be a winner.
He is. And because the dad, like you said, Joaquin, he taking a step now by getting involved with that. And I want to say, man, you know, I know we learned in the mosque, James, that the public schools is referred to as the killing field.
Yes, sir.
And Malcolm, we talked about the example is Malcolm X told the teacher, I want to be a carpenter. I want to be a lawyer.
Right.
And she said, why? Your people would never hire you as a lawyer. And certainly my people aren't going to hire you. You're great with your hands.
Right.
You should be a carpenter.
Right.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And so killing the dreams, they call it putting a needle in the brain.
That's what we talk about. And
turning off the gifts that you saw at 2, 3, and 4 in a child because the love in there, the nurturing in there, they don't see the opportunity. So Malcolm becomes a thief. He becomes a dope dealer. He becomes an armed robber. And he lands in jail.
Yeah.
All because someone killed the dreams of a brilliant young man that trusted them enough to tell them their dreams.
Wow.
Right? And then he becomes the greatest transformation story possibly in the history of American public life, because he read.
That's right.
He read till he couldn't see.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
right.
And so, yes, to our parents, it's problems with the schools. We got some problems with part of it is a killing field.
And my man Earthquake said public school owe his ass a refund.
Yeah.
That's what Earthquake said.
Yeah.
Public school owe me a
and
refund.
So parents, since it's a killing field and we can't afford private school, that just means you got to be on it. You got to be in there.
That's
They got,
right.
like Dr. Turner said, they got to see your black face. You can't take no for anything. You set high expectations and hold them accountable. Hold them to the same level of accountability as you holding your child.
That's right.
It's important, but you can't go in there just hollering, being emotional.
And please know when to defend
Without
your
having
child
the
and
evidence. And do not defend them when they're wrong.
When they're wrong,
because you will
please.
shut anybody down from trying to help them. But it's critical, man. And
Good point.
we got a problem in our young people with as many distractions they have now. We can't afford with the gaps between the haves and the have-nots. We can't afford not to make sure they get educated, man. So
That's right.
We need, and to touch on that, man, it's so much we can do in terms of tapping into Google and YouTube and classes and Khan Academy and all of these resources that are out there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We really need to, rein in our resources and put them to work for us. You know
I'm
what I
gonna
mean?
ask-
It's different when we was young and if you was lucky, you got a stack of encyclopedias.
Bro, couldn't
Bro,
man, you know
nobody
how
I
much
knew
that
had.
cost?
We
Yeah.
had them.
We had 'em.
We
Oh,
had
y'all,
'em.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had them.
y'all,
I
did
had
they
one
get
set.
financed?
I looked at the pictures,
They
though.
could finance them.
Oh yeah, they had to make payments.
Hey, John, I want to
We
ask
still
you
making
since,
payments.
since Gabriel graduating this year, man.
Kudos,
How do you look
congrats.
back-
Yeah, shout out to
yeah.
Gabriel,
shout out to
man.
Gabriel. All
Yeah.
the college acceptances coming in.
Yes,
yes.
And
Thank-
but How do you look back now his K-12 journey? You can take us out with that, and then we can.
You realize you could have left him alone a little more than you did.
Hey, well, that goes
harassed the hell out of him.
then lies right when I talked about the birth order, right? So with the oldest, put so much into him, right? And because I was a big believer, like when Andre is straight, he's setting the tone for his brothers. You know, it's our job to raise his brothers, not Andre's, right? But when we set him off and he has good habits and he succeeds, his brother's going to follow those footsteps as well. And again, you know, by the time we have our youngest one, we tired, man. We tired.
He'll get it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He gonna get it. And honestly, man, was so hands-on with Andre, a lot less hands-on with Gabriel. Andre, fast forward, did better in college than in high school. You know what I mean? He was at a good school that catered to what he needed. And now Gabriel has applied he's been accepted to all 3 schools that he's applied to.
Awesome.
You know,
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Without the
right.
yeah.
Exactly. Without the micromanagement, the
Yeah.
helicopter. Every once in a while, he'll know we show up to the school like we talk. And you ain't got to show up to the school every month, every week.
Yeah.
But that once in a while, he know. And then sometimes you say, do I have to come to school? That's it. Because he don't want that. He don't
And
want
you know
that.
who else know? The teachers know you will come up there.
Right,
come
right.
Up there.
And
That's the
so
most important.
Even to this day, if I go to the school, if I go to a basketball game or something, teachers, principal, what's up, Yates? What's up? They know me.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
you know, because I built that relationship with him.
Right.
And then he'll come home and say, hey, Dad, such and such, say, hey, what's up? How you doing? You know?
Yeah.
And what you talked about earlier too, from elementary to they didn't saying you can't read this book.
Yeah.
So I talked about loving Miss Dooley, and Mr. Williams was a good, strong teacher. In the 4th grade, I had a horrible teacher. And then I got beaten. at Stone Robinson. You know, so I'm the youngest person I know that got paddled in the public school.
Oh, wow.
You
I
know.
think
Yeah,
so.
we ain't get
Yeah.
paid.
Nah.
Right, yeah. So and got in trouble when I got home, right? So, but that's just 1 year of one horrible teacher, you know. So I'm not blaming her all the way for my behavior issues, you know, but
Right.
that's just how quick things can turn.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a good point, man. Any of us that have our hands on young people, it is almost scary to realize one sentence can change the direction of a kid's life in a positive or negative way.
Yeah.
And when you understand the power and the influence of that, you have to be extremely mindful of every single word that comes out of your mouth when you're in the presence of young people.
Wow.
Right.
Every single word.
True.
Because it can take them down a path of resistance and destruction, or it can take them on a path of prominence. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we have, and whether it be the administrators and the teachers, or it is, you know, the parents themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stupid, just like so and so. You know, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? We got to watch our language around our young people because it shapes their thoughts and their patterns.
Yeah. I guess.
Facts.
Well, we appreciate and enjoyed this conversation about education. Again, it's the B2M Crew. Boys and men, been partners for over 40 years, chopping it up like this, and we just sharing those conversations with you all. And Joaquin, you got something?
Yeah, man.
Take us out with?
In the words of my man Frederick Douglass, our great American leader, it is how'd I say it? It's easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Peace.
We out.
And I won't stop until I'm winning. I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. They don't want me in the office cause I tell